Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, and we're back with another Picard Breakdown. Our mission is to boldly go where no one has gone before and give our thoughts on the new entry as well as what could be happening in the future. Throughout this video we'll be discussing the ins and outs of the 4th episode's plot, its Easter eggs and what we thought of it as a whole. We will be engaging with heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to catch the show yet and don't want to know what happens, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for videos like this every week, and with that out of the way, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Picard episode 4. Okay, so just a quick recap of the series so far. After the death of Data's daughter Daj, Picard made it his mission to track down her twin sister Soji. Picard wanted to set out into the stars to locate her, and after being denied by Starfleet, he finally got a crew together to travel to the vastness of space in order to locate her. Episode 4 centres primarily around the titular character, his crew, and a Romulan orphan named Elnor that Picard helped to rescue during the supernova that shaped many events in the show. The episode opens with Admiral Picard travelling to see Elnor as a young boy, and it fills in a lot of the blanks from his past. It's revealed that 14 years prior, Picard settled the Romulan refugees on Vashti. There is a mention of 10,000 refugees, and this actually ties in heavily with the prequel comic book, Star Trek Picard Countdown. In that, the character and his ship the Verity were asked to evacuate the 10,000. It's during this mission that he and Raffi were taken hostage by the Romulan government, who revealed that there were actually 5 million inhabitants on the planet that needed saving, but that the Romulans only wished to save their own people. They defeated the corrupt government and evacuated the 10,000 and over 250,000 more, but as we know, Starfleet was not there to save the rest of the planet, and thus many of the survivors remained on Vashti. Vashti itself is named after the first queen of Persia in the book Esther, and during that the queen was banished from the kingdom after refusing to show her beauty during a banquet. This is mirrored slightly in the episode in which Elnor, who we witness as both a child and adult, carries a lot of disdain for Picard because he believes he was absent. Picard shows up in his fancy suits whilst the Romulans are forced to live on an underdeveloped planet, and it's clear that the promises he makes about the Federation are ultimately shown to be untruthful. The synth attack breaks his word, and thus Elnor grows up disliking the character. After the credits jump to the present, 14 years after the intro, we see Picard returning to Vashti to try and recruit Elnor on his mission. We join Rios reading The Tragic Sense of Life, which, as we discussed last week, was a book on how death gives life purpose, and this is mirrored in Picard's mission and his now finite time left alive. Rios gives a much better description of the book in the episode than I did, but yeah, there's a lot of parallels here. His diagnosis has put a ticking clock on his life, and he seems to be trying to live out the best of both worlds, with the holodeck placing the character back on the chateau once more. We learn that Vashti is in the middle of a power vacuum run by gangsters and crime lords, and it's basically Mos Eisley but in Star Trek. Vashti is also part of the Romulan rebirth movement, and is also lip service paid to the way of absolute candor, which is basically when you have a drink and go on a Twitter rant, but in real life. It's the opposite of what the Romulans tend to do, as they are normally the strong and silent type, but this allows them to speak their mind unfiltered. Raffi tries to talk Picard out of it, and we see how the death of Daj has made the character feel like perhaps he has a chance to redeem himself, not only in Soji, but also in Elnor. Once he arrives on the planet, we realise that though Picard necessarily isn't in the good books at Starfleet, many still view him as the embodiment of it. He stands there, a charming man who is all front, and really just full of empty promises. To the Romulans, the fact that he resigned from Starfleet shows that he never really had any intention of truly helping them and was only in it for the glory. Whilst we know that this isn't really the case, and it was more due to being at his wit's end, this stepping down has made you realise that perhaps the character isn't the selfless pillar of good that we once believed him to be. Back on the Borg cube, Soji is investigating the past of Rumda, who, as we know, was part of the last ship to be assimilated by the station. She mentions the destroyer, which she accused Soji of being, and I actually have a theory that Soji may be the next Borg Queen. I keep meaning to mention this every video, but I keep forgetting, so I'm making a point of doing it this time. Soji can speak to the drones without knowing how. As we know, she is the melding between synthetic and organic, and though I have seen some people say that this could make her one of the Borg, if you're gonna go all out, then as a show you might as well have the Queen appear rather than just a lowly drone. She is called a destroyer, which the Queen would have a reputation of being, and there's a lot of weight to this theory sprinkled throughout the episode, including the revelation that she was sent to the cube and not that she was requested to go there. There are questions about her identity and who she really is, and I think this makes a lot of sense. On a date with Narek, she asks if he's Tal Shiar, which he says he isn't, but this is then followed up by him saying that if he was, he wouldn't tell her. As we know, he is duplicitous, and thus the second answer is more likely the truth. Whether it's his clothes, mission, or his sister being tied heavily in with the shadowy organisation, it does seem like he's indeed one of them. I actually do think he is falling for her, and who knows, he may be instrumental in her believing Picard. We know his sister is likely going to become the big bad, so it does leave wiggle room for him to switch sides. We see him and his sister discussing the fact that they're using Soji to find a nest of synthetics, which is where she potentially came from. I think this may be located at Free Cloud where Bruce Maddox is. As we know, due to the ban on synthetics, he travelled into the universe to continue working on his perfect machine. We discover that Narek is becoming her boyfriend because if she is pushed too hard, she will activate like Daj did and potentially enable her combat systems. We jump with Picard back to Vashti, and it's a shadow of the planet that he landed on almost 15 years prior. Everyone looks at him like he's just told them he's going to be building a monorail in the area, and there are clear Romulan Oni zones which mirror the separation of race that used to exist across the world. He's given less time than he'd hoped for when Raffi sends word that an incoming bird of prey carries Konkatar on it. It is an older model rather than a newer one, and it provides our first big space battle in the series. Elnor doesn't seem that up for going with Picard, and he even becomes more angered that Jean-Luc seemingly cared more for his dead friend than he did the living child that he made a promise to. He rejects his request worse than those people who watch every video and don't subscribe when I ask them to, and Picard starts trouble in the town centre in order to get him to come to his aid. He rips the Romulan Zoni sign off and enters the bar. Picard comes face to face with a senator from the aforementioned comic book run we mentioned earlier, and we see that he's devolved from a high-ranking official to a man that lives in poverty. He reiterates how angered everyone is over him. Romulans, as we've seen, are a proud race, and the ex-senator believes that the Romulans could have actually saved themselves had they been left to their own devices instead of being filled with false hope. Now, I do think that this once more adds weight to the theory that the Romulans actually carried out the synthetic attack on Mars whilst they were in the midst of a supernova in order to make Starfleet look bad and for the sins to be hated. As we know from Admiral Clancy, there were 14 systems threatening to leave Starfleet that did not end up going because of the synthetic uprising, and this made androids banned throughout the universe. We do know that Romulans hate synthetics, and perhaps they hacked them in order to make the rest of the galaxy join them in banning the machines. I don't want to get all Bush knocked down the towers, but there's definitely a lot more going on here. The fact that their planet was on the brink of destruction during this would give them the perfect alibi, and personally I believe that's what happened. Anyway, we see firsthand that Elnor is a brilliant fighter, and he binds himself to Picard in order to protect him. I got a lot of Legolas vibes here, and Picard makes a public apology like he's just been cancelled. The show ends with an epic space battle and an ally joining the fight. With their ship failing, they beam them aboard, and it's revealed to be 7 of 9. It's an awesome way to end the episode, and it's great to see her back in a Star Trek show. As for her feelings for Picard, Jerry Ryan recently discussed how she views him in an interview with IGN, which I'll play right now.
Been through a lot, both of them. 7, I think, holds Starfleet and the Federation in large part responsible for much of it. The universe is a mess, and I think she sort of initially sees Picard as a representation of that. She's been working, I think I'm allowed to say, with sort of a group of freedom fighters called the Fenris Rangers, who are trying to keep some semblance of order in the mess that is the galaxy. This is the first time that 7 and Picard actually meet. They know each other by reputation. And as I said before, 7's not on the, oh, he's a god bandwagon, I think, initially when she meets him, because she holds him partly responsible for what Starfleet has done in her.
So we know a lot from that, and though they haven't met before, I do think it's going to add an interesting dynamic to the show. As mentioned, she works for a group of freedom fighters, and Picard may even end up reaching out to her allies. In the next episode, we see them travelling to a more offbeat planet dressed as pirates, and I think this is where they could end up trying to meet the group. I did enjoy the episode so far, and overall the series has been great for me. Thank you everyone who's stuck with the channel, and I hope you've been enjoying the recaps too. Obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on Picard, so comment below and let me know. And if you want to catch up on our breakdown so far, then click the playlist which is going to be linked at the end. Every month on the 15th we give away free Blu-rays, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning Dr. Sleep is leave a like and subscribe with notifications on. If you want to support the channel and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat to us on our Discord server or at DefinitionYT on Twitter. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.